Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for having me here and in the Summer Academy. Thank you also here the 520 for hosting us here today. And thank you for the students that they came. And thank you all. So my name is Yorgos Sapountzis. I come from, I grew up a little bit like production. I grew up in Athens, where I wanted as a child to be an artist, and I was saying I wanted to be a painter to my parents. I didn't become a painter, but then I studied restoration of art in order to be next to art, and then I said I don't want to be next to art, I want to make art. And at the same time I was seeing a lot of theater, and I started working in a theater group with a director that I still collaborate, and I'm going now to collaborate after here, in 8th of September I fly to China to make also a stage design and costumes. But I don't do a lot, but if you understand my work, you're going to see that this has a lot to do with this theater world, or for me it's very important what is body, what is performance, what's the body in the public space, and you will see. But I will start in order to put a structure in the top. I'm going to start with an exhibition that I just did last month, and it's called Mixi Hotel. It's a play word a little bit. It doesn't mean anything, but it's I want to put a name on the hotel that I create. And it was a combination of all the new works. So there is a question all the time how, as an artist, to curate yourself and what kind of works you put together to make this an exhibition. So this is the main room when you enter. The building is a building that used to be a house somehow. So when I went there first time, I saw the rooms, and the room was quite small, and I could imagine how this could be these rooms when this was a house. And I said, it will be very interesting if we put if I put in the exhibition real objects inside. And there it comes a little bit this idea of scenography, a word that in the art world everybody afraid to use. They say as a negative, it's scenographical, it's scenography or something. But me, it's a term that I really like, and I believe that everything is scenography. You're walking here in Salzburg, and you are in a scenography. Every city, the architecture is a scenography of our times, a new architecture or an old architecture. It's always what is surround us. And me, it was very interesting all the time this tour that it was the person, and behind him always a backdrop and a stage. And I was trying to find always this relationship. And I said also as an artist, I had always the dilemma installing in a museum or galleries, you have these white walls here, and then you have your work, and you have to install it always some centimeters away from the floor, and all the time you're wondering in this white box how to install your works. So many times I said I don't want that, I want first to put objects inside and create a feeling or an atmosphere or a scenography, and then on top put my works. And and you will see how this turned. So in this room I have works from different periods of my works. You can see starting here. This was the entrance. And the works that you see above the doors, it's and all the works that you see on fabrics, they're in a technique that I make it's monotypy. So what I do, I print in a surface that the ink cannot go inside, and then I'm working on it a little bit with a brush sometimes, and then I print it over. this is like an older work, like everything's older, like here's like the original. So what I will do, I will show you like the exhibition, and then it will have some reference from the older works. So this is in Ursula Blicke Stiftung, far away, and then I want like to, all these works called like Rasta Basta, and then it was all the time in a relationship like with an architectural object. And this room, I try like to combine these works that are coming from two different sides, and it's very interesting. Like I'm living in Berlin, like now almost from 2002, and there it was the first time my communication and like that in the open space to see like sculptures that I didn't have any historical reference or association. For example, in Greece, when I was seeing this monument from the Second World War, I knew what it was meaning. There I was seeing Berlin like Bismarck or something. I was like, okay, it's just a figure, just a person sitting there. So the works that you see on the left is like from East Berlin. I'm living in Friedrichshain, and my studio is in Lichtenberg. So I have all the time these sculptures that in different parts, that in the period of the communist time of Germany, and then it's like a different sculptures, figurative all the time, naked in the parks, and it's works that they always come inside my work. And on the left, like the two that you see there, they're coming from Hanover, from Sprengel Museum. So I work there with the collection. So you have here like an East German like sculptures that they are outside in the parks, and they never have like any important like values. And the other is like part of a collection of important like Museum of West Germany, and it's exactly also the period that before the wall fell down that they are. So this is like a Greek artist, Abramidis, that he lived in Germany, and this also,
Vienna.
Yes, and Vienna, and then it has like a lot of like museums that have like works of his, and actually this is one of his first work that's very realistic, because then later he became very formalistic in the works. This is Lorraine, I think. I forgot what it is. Here you can see like a photo when I was doing a photo shooting, and I went and I made like a photo shooting with the sculptures in the museum. So I went there. I went like in the first from the catalogs, and then I went to the storage of the museum, and then we picked the works, and I made like a professional photo shooting, but then I took them back in my studio and I made the prints. In Hanover, it was this exhibition called, with an awful title, like Made in Germany, that's happening every 5 years. And there I had the way to show here exactly this idea, what I said about scenography. Like each of these works, we have like through a museum and aesthetic every time a very special way how they exhibit them. And it's a modernist, it has to be in this room and like that. So I want like to return that and make it in a personal like interpretation, and also like to create like, I say like almost if this was character and this was a stage. It was in a pedestal that you can see, and it was like 11 meters long, and then it was the originals together with my interpretation. See this small sculpture, because it's like the biggest print that you will see later also on the things. And there it comes also, and it was called Nacktes Erbe, Naked Heritage, because all of them, they were like naked figures. And it was the word heritage that for me it was it's very important, like what's our heritage, or actually what we have, what we own as a people. this back in this museum in Merano, how it was installed, the room. Again, like two different kinds, like in the middle is like from a sculpture that is in Weberwiese in Berlin next to my house, and then this from the collection. This, it's called like a young boy with a duck. And this is like a fisherman. You will see this, I show you this because I'm going to show you in the end like the project from Venice, and these sculptures are also inside the video. This naked woman. And here's this small sculpture that I showed you before, that actually is like a 2 meters installation. And you can see already like from the upper floor and down floor. So this work there, down, it's a newspaper that writes Athens. And this is like from 2015. I saw it also in the last documenta part of the collection of the museum. And it's called like Landschaft des Griechenlands, the landscape of Greece. And this refers like to a German painter, Rothman, that, I don't know, like you know the history, like the first king of Greece was made a revolution against the Ottoman Empire, and then they tried to establish like a French democracy with a new like thing, but then they were fighting each other, and then they called like Kapodistrias from Russia, that was like the minister of thing, and he was Greek, and they invite him to make, and they say, it will not make sense, you have to find a king. And then they put an advertisement and they ask who wants to be the next king of Greece. And then Baia at that time was like a very young like kingdom, and the king says, I will send my son. And he sent like the 16 years old son, Otto, that he became Ophonas in Greece, Otto von Baia, and he became the first king of Greece. The father sent one of his painters, Rothman, that was a very famous painter, sent him to Greece to make like the landscape of Greece in order to put them in the residence, like in the theater. Then he liked them very much, and then he made a special room in the Neue Pinakothek, and that he saw them all. In the wall, like most of some of the half of the works are destroyed, and now they've made a new installation with, I don't know, 9 pieces, although together like 25, with Karl Rothman's The Landscape of Greece. And this is the room. So I was like in Munich and I was very touched from that. And then I went to, that time it was almost 10 years of working with the same materials, that I was a little bit like too full with these materials. And I feel like as an artist, because you use all the time with the same materials and like that, and then you feel that you don't see anymore anything else except that. So I decided to make a video that it will contain all this, that it will revisit how Rothman went and visited the landscape of Greece. I will visit again like my work. And to dedicate to Rothman, I make these newspapers that it has the original titles and a drawing of mine. This is the original first exhibition that was in Barbara Cross, that you mentioned before. And it was different, like installed like in the corridor. And here's the room that was showing this video. And I always, like also in the first installation and here, I like to show it like with an old couch as a reference for the couch that's always existing in the artist studios, that it's like an old couch. Interaction. I will make a short break and show you the video. Music is from a Norwegian composer, Eivind Tøyvind, that I collaborate and I work with him almost like 11, 12 years. That you see here actually is the size of the Rothman paintings, and it's the metal structure that Rothman used in order to put on top the fresco that he made actually the paintings. This narrative and have like an idea more like a salad in a way, that it's always like you get what it's about and then you see like the result before you see the ending. So this was the video showing this room. And here it was the other side, and here it was like a work that I did like in Glarus, 2014, and it's called like Dance Studio, and it's this metal wall, and behind it was like it was a workshop that I did copying statues from the collection in this small museum in Switzerland. Yes. Again, it was like heads, legs, and I was using this technique that I was using like paper tape and gaffer tape, and I was going around the leg and the head, and then I was cutting it and connect again, and then put plaster inside. This technique I was calling them fast cast. So one video it had like this idea of the studio and the work, and there it has like a work that it was I made it first time. It's called Look and Cook, and it's actually remains of my studio, like small objects and garbage or like materials that I always say I will use but I never use. And this work, it was coming in contrast a little bit with the sculptures from the museum or the thing, because there the only thing I take from them, it's always like an image. So what is belonging to me as an artist is this relationship and this unique moment of attaching this image and showing this personal relationship with this. But at the end, I don't know all of them. But this, it's mine. And this was like the first time when it was showing the exhibition of Kleine Plastik in, where is it? Feldbach. Okay, this image should be before. This is the image from the dance studio. And here it was like a small frame, also from our old work, like also from a museum work of mine that I work inside the Museum of Cycladic Art. And exactly, you say again, you have exactly the objects. So all the objects we come because we come here, and this is the next floor. So when I was there in Merano, coming back to our story, I hope you didn't forget it, but I was in Merano and I saw the spaces and I said it looked like home. But then Merano, like Salzburg, or it's like it has a lot of hotels, and it's a place, a Kurort, that you go to make. It has like it was where Sisi was going to relax, and that time it was part of Austria, and she was going there to relax, and there she learned also that her daughter died. Yeah. So I went there. It had a lot of hotels. So I was like, okay, I want objects. And it has a lot of hotels, so why we don't ask the hotels to give us objects? So we asked like many hotels, and then we went to 4 hotels, and then I select like from the corridors and also from the basement objects to do my installation. And everything is lent, they haven't gave me, so whatever I have built, it has to be returned back. So you see like all these cans and sculptures. Here's another view. And so I use these objects, like small sculpture like that, and I photograph them exactly how I did before. So you have like down like the sculptures, and then in front you have all the time these decoration objects. But with them, I made like exactly what I wanted to be. I make like these works. And then the next room it had like one bed that I got like from a hotel. And here, this was the photo shooting that was made like for the catalog. And then I decided to be inside it. And also, here also I am. So my intention, like to bring like these beds and like that, was also the hotel, but it was also to create like a story between the bodies that you have like downstairs made out of bronze. Bodies that they stay for eternity because they're part of a collection, or they're outside in the park and they're made out of bronze, so it's difficult to get destroyed. And yeah, and then this is like sculptures that I say, and I will go to the next project, that they don't have to eat, in terms of the human body that has to be in a soft bed, and it has always some hours have to eat in order to stay alive. And this was the end of the exhibition, but it was like a mini bar. And during my stay there, inside the installation, I made all these Polaroids that was like self-portraits or me with the objects. Again, like this attached with these objects and living like a memory. So very sentimental, like the end. So that's it, and now I'm going to jump, tell you these sculptures in the. Yeah, great. All the time. In the project that was in Venice, and I show you this not because it was in Venice, but it has to do. It's kind of a dialogue with this idea of the personal studio space. For me, a studio space is a very hard place because for me it was very difficult to go in a studio and work inside. Like being also in the theater and being around like like different people and hear what they say and then being in a dialogue with them. It was very energetic place and a place that I think studio for me was always a very hard, you saw it also in the other video, a very hard place that I have to be alone with my materials, sitting, watching the ceiling and try to find out. In order to bring the materials in the studio, I made like performances and present like these materials in the public, in front of the people, and then took them back in the studio. In this video, I invite people in my studio and make the work together with them. So this is the installation. Again, it's like this monotypy on top of this satin fabric. Again, what I said before about and I said that it has like different like sections. It was the idea like in each section to play with the time, in order like to have like the result in the front, so you don't have this expectation what will happen. It will have like, although it had these sections that was different scenes, it has like to talk a little bit about that, like this scene that for me it has a little bit like all the interest, it comes a lot in my work, it has a lot of repetition, so I find something for the performance and then it follows me. So these movements, it's a workshop that I do like also to make the performance, and it's documented here as a video. In these terms, I would say something like the video, the concerning of video and performance for me has a very big difference, because here is all staged and you have time and you check the camera and everything. Although in the performance you have to have a very different energy and a very different preparation in order to work. But for example, in this scene, you understand that it's a studio and you can see like even the lights and all the things. So with this messy scene, for me, it gave me relief that you know that everything is my fiction, and then it comes like in a more styled and like one like frame works. And again, it has like a lot of reference inside. For example, here the piece that you see, it's like from the previous work. And actually, a very big like thinking during this work was like from Courbet, the studio of the artist, that he invite like all he make this huge painting and have like his model as a mousse, and his painting and his friends and his enemies all together. So this was like my idea, like to invite people and work with them. And also like when I got this studio before 3 years, I was thinking how to make a studio that has like an atmosphere that will work. So always this studio was made out to be a setup and not be like a white cube place that I will work inside. And exactly, and this wall that you see on the back actually is when I went to Venice, I measured like the walls, and I saw that the distance between the two columns was exactly the distance in this wall in my studio. So I was like, okay, why I should invent a new shape, how it would be this installation. I will copy this wall from my studio, and I copied it like 5 times, and I brought that there. Exactly, and in the end is exactly this sculpture that I told you before, like from Lichtenberg and Prenzlau, Lichtenberg and where I live, Friedrichshain. That's like in the now I'm ready to you ask me questions. I hope you have enough. And then yeah, it's better like to have a dialogue now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yorgos, for this interesting presentation. I would like to know how long did you work on this video, in terms of how long were the people in your studio? And did you have an exact, did you know exactly what has to come out before you started?
Yes and no. No, I like, thank you for the question. We worked it was 2.5 days, hard like filming because we had to rent materials, and then you can see that the people changing. Actually, we have 2 of the people here, that they're all playing there, and then they Johannes, how they left, and. So I invite like people, and I had like, as I told you, I worked like almost like not a master. Like I had like the scenes, how I want to do it. Like I knew that I want to make like this scene with food, and I knew that I want to make this scene with the fabrics. I don't try to control everything because I want like to let myself be surprised during the process. So I have like very hard like timetable, or like very hard like how to do it, but I left always an aspect of getting surprised. This also with the installing, like sometimes also by the installing of the installation, sometimes for example there comes a curator and says, it's like, it's 2 days before the exhibition, what it will be, how it will be, and I say, sorry, but for exactly for this moment I became an artist, and I enjoyed a lot, and I've realized for myself that I have to be very tired and very working in one thing for a long time in order to take decisions. And you can see it also from the materiality that I cannot take decisions very easily, so everything, it can be modified until the end from me myself. Like for example, everything's fixed with needles. Everything, the tubes are fixed like before it was only with these bands, and then now I use like this mechanism with a screw. So slowly my work gets more harder and more like fixed, but it still has this work that I can change everything. And this also because I want the work always to be part of my drawing somehow. So it's in my drawings, like it was the lines, and then I put a color inside, and then the lines became later like tubes, and the color became like a fabric. And always it was in a moment that it will stay in the thinking and in the process and in the drawing of the idea, but not belong still to the world of the objects.
So I also have a question. I was wondering, why did you choose this stop motion aesthetic for the video?
Thank you. I try like not to, this was from the beginning, like from the old times that because I was playing inside, and I never liked to have like a documentation of a performance. So that's why I choose to never have also the normal sound. and I like this idea like of the images. So I drop like frames, and then it has this strobo to go away from this natural representation that we know like from the films, to go away. And also because of this, I was saying always I'm not a video artist. I select also in many installations also here because then they start to invite me also, like for example for a video festival, blah blah blah. And then I never had any control how my work was being shown. So then I said, okay, the work could be shown only in this fabric screen. So then I had like a total control of how it was shown. I did this for years, except the work that I showed you with the Lunch of the Grichela was after many years I saw like a video on the wall. And yeah. Any questions?
More questions?
Thank you. What is the venue that you have considered for
Sorry?
showing? What is the venue you have considered for showing your work, and who do you anticipate your audience to be?
I didn't hear the beginning what you said. What is the value?
The venue.
The venue.
Like a gallery setting or a public setting.
I don't select myself, like this is the like as an artist you are like in a dialogue like we're going to school, like we are in dialogue all the time with different spaces or venues. Like I didn't select normally you get invited and they show you like the venue. It was very little the positions that I selected venue. Yeah, you don't select. It was a little bit like this is the modern times of, and this is a nice thing. Like imagine like in the Renaissance was invited and they tell this is the piece in the church, this is the chapel. You have to paint from here to here, and you have to paint exactly like the thing now. In the modern times, curator asks you to come and see the space. So I was invited to Merano and I saw the space. And then I thought on top of the space what I can do. And this is very nice, very challenging all the time, how to deal. I love it. I really like it because I try always to create like a dramaturgy and create like almost like a theater play. So what is the first room, what is the second room, what you see after the other. And I find it very, very nice experience. What was the second part there, Irene?
It's related to the first part of the question, but who is the audience? Who is your audience that you consider when you're making your work?
The audience that I consider, everybody. Like I try to reach, if I reach one person, I'm very happy. If I can reach and I can make him like think something, and everybody, because I said everybody, it's a nice question because, for example, I had an exhibition in Berlin. It was a big group show, this based in Berlin show. So I was in my space and I was seeing people going in the space and saying, oh, I hate this work, it's awful. And I was happy to hear that. In terms of you doing your role as an artist, if somebody comes and hates what you do, it's also very important because he says, I hate that, I hate this aesthetic, because I like something else. So actually, you help this person to identify his aesthetic and what he likes. And I say that from my experience. I go also in a space and I say, I don't like this kind of art because I like this kind of art. So at the end, even if you go to a show that you don't enjoy and don't have, the important is to help you to identify what you like or moves you to make your opinion or your view in terms like I don't like this, and then you wonder, you want to go to the next museum and find something that you like. So then the work plays its role.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, you came from theater and then you're now in visual arts, but you explain many of your works like coming from the theater. So what would you say is the difference and why did you not stay in the theater?
Thank you. I will say the answer that I gave to the director when I was in Berlin and he asked me to go back and work with him in the next production. And then I told him, you know what, in theater, everybody gives his best of what he can do. And whenever you're weak and you're in front of the problem that you cannot solve, somebody else comes and fills the gap. So when the director had a problem, then it was coming the musician and say, I will put this music here and it will be perfect. Or I was coming and I say, I know now so we come with a yellow dress and it will be very nice. So everybody helps the other and then you create this amazing result that you can understand that nobody could have thought of that one person. It's a combination of many. And then I told him I want to be in front of my problems. I want to be in front of the things that I cannot do, in front of my fears. And that's why I went to the studio that I said before that was a hard place to be. So this was the answer. Another thing I want to tell you about theater, I'm not interested in theater as an institution, what is happening now here, like in this city, you can see that. I'm interested in a lot how everything started, how theater started. For example, in the scene here, that in this film, is this girl that she's just the other people eating and she's just dancing. And I was wondering, like, she danced because she feels nice to dance, or she danced because you are happy that she dances for you? What is this relationship between the audience and the viewers? The person that is on the stage and say, here I am for you, and the audience that they receive that. And this relationship, how it started? It started like from a festival that the people were drunk and somebody started to saying like crazy things and the people start laughing and he was happy that they're laughing and he continued. What is that? And it exists something inside that. This one of the terms and then combine it also with the objects and the needs of objects and the needs of sculptures and images. You can find it in my work. One more question, please.
I guess this question relates to what you talk about copy and repetition. So, like in the installation piece that you show, there's the actual sculpture and the image of the sculpture which coexist. And then in the stop motion video, there's also, I guess, artist's body, and then the fabric works as almost like a surrogate of the body. So they coexist as well. So I'm interested in how, could you explain a bit more about this coexistence of image and object, of like represented and representation?
Yes. As I said, okay, take it from the beginning. I didn't want to stay home. I want to go outside. And then I was trying to find where to do like performance in the space, and I said, why not go where already the space is given? And then I made this that I was calling like parasitic sculpture. So I went like where it was a monument, that was a figure, and I worked with it. And so I was working with these objects, these sculptures. Working with it, I realized that actually I don't want to work with the sculpture itself, but I want to work like with humans. But I was too afraid or too indirect. So what I was trying to do was to build a tube with the object, like a tube of communication with the object that is like a frozen image of a human sculpture made out of metal, in order to stay in connection with the people, or like the citizens of a city. Now it's a bit complicated, yes. So in order to do that, in these terms, I use like the fabrics as also reminder of the clothes, and also the skin that we recognize from the others more than the skin that stays with the head and the hands. And I was trying to use that because it was like ephemeral and it could take any shape, comparing with the statue that stay always freeze in the same position, in the same shape. And then as an artist also, as a sculptor, I was trying to build up a form in front of that. Still I haven't succeeded. It always ends up like this, like that it never gives like a result. But then this falling down and falling apart, it was keeping the ideas of these questions on. I don't know if I answered to you. Did I answer to you?
Yes.
Yes.
No, but what he also asked is, what is it, if I understood you correctly, it was this question of the represented and, I mean, you work with sculptures which exist, like the Galerie or whatever, or the head of Oskar Kokoschka and so on, and then you kind of, you use it again. And has this also to do with what is on the sculpture in the end? No.
What is on the sculpture?
You didn't use the, but you used this sculpture of Avramidis, yeah? This standing man. And then it's again in your work.
Okay.
And so the standing man has a meaning, and your...
Exactly. Nice that you saw that Kokoschka was there.
Sure.
And it's huge, like
It's
so big.
huge, yeah.
And so this is like this exactly. I built up a relationship with these objects, and actually this is like the these works is like that's why I said maybe there's a building this tube. I was saying building a tube and create like a relationship with these objects. That's like personal, and it's like it's my personal viewing on them. And this then it's mine, so it's like my interpretation, but then it's like it shows like my viewing on these things. And then in there it's calling also the audience to have their own viewing. So it's like a staring into objects, into old forms, and not creating like new forms, but staring to these forms and talking about the viewing and the relationship that you build, but not to overlay. In the end, it's like, it's fun because, I don't like to say how the audience see it, but it's like, it's funny because people then they start seeing different. If you show the way that you look, they start looking also not your way, but in between yours and something else. And for me, it's very funny because it's like each one of these works, it's always building a relationship, and I feel then I have like it comes back to the memory like of my work. Yes.
I think I catch a lot of comments from your presentation about time-based media, and also, of course, there are deep interest in the theater, and also cut word you saying about eternity. And a lot of times when people use the media of the time, then of course it's bound to talk about the limitation of human cognition on time and or experience, and it's just a figure that seems like your performative aspect of the work and the sculptural aspect seems like simultaneously developed. or just my impression. And I also remember seeing your work on Venice Biennale. There was a sculptures, I'm not exactly recalling now, but about the eating, and there's also like the sculpture went through some sort of time, I guess. And so there's a scriptural aspect also seems like replacing some part of talking about time. And just I'm curious, how do you find the balance between these different media that's considering this time, and more practically asking, how do you know when is the end of this work and when is the time that you come to decide, finding the balance between different media and then presenting media, this is a finished work now.
So this kind of, I will tell you a little bit like in general, this kind of work that was like also in the Venice Biennale, I call them sometimes like opera works, because they contain a lot, exactly how you said, they contain a lot of different practices of mine, like from sculpture to prints to, and it shows like an expose of all like possibilities of me thinking the things. I don't know why I did it also, but I like this kind of exposing like many like possibilities. So I lost the question a bit, like with the time, and so I don't have any stress doing a work because I find what I said about the relationship and meeting. It's like a meeting with the materials and the work and the subject and the theme. And I say sometimes if it doesn't work out, until the next time. So that it's always like a next time. And I said I would be an artist like for all my life, I don't know. And I think that this is a process. Every time that I do like a work or a performance, it's like this high level of being concentrated and working a lot and like that. And then when this stops, then you get new ideas or something, then you come again in this moment of producing. And then if it doesn't work out like that, you can do it the next time. Like, I can give you like a terms, like an artist that I really love, and I see in these terms, like this Franz West, that it took like so many years to go to a world that was hard and fixed, but then it was like it was a big like project trying to find his way how to do things. And I say also that my work is still very in how is it, puberté? Like now it's in the end of being. It's coming out to the adult life, but it's not there yet. And yeah, I answered it well or not. I will tell you tomorrow.